Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of First Look, Final Word, podcast where we take you along to see a movie with us. I'm Pete.
And I'm Trevor. What's going on, you architects?
It's funny this week because I've literally no idea what this movie's about.
Well, it's about
An architect, I'm guessing.
It's about an architect. We're already kind of going because we're running a bit late.
Oh, yeah, because you normally do the
basically
synopsis, right?
the synopsis is.
If it's going to go off memory, I was going to look it up.
You can do it then. That's fine.
Go on,
I don't want to say something that might be a spoiler, but I thought that it was like kind of well known. With
I already did that with Companion last time, right?
But I know, the architectural style of brutalism is featured in this movie in some regard.
I guess that makes sense with the name of the movie.
Yeah. But anyways, welcome everybody.
Yeah.
So if you are new to the podcast, maybe just checking in, we are seeing The Brutalist in 35mm. Pete and I drive to movies every week, and we give you an immediate reaction to the movie we just saw before going to spoiler talk. So we give you plenty of warning for that.
Because neither of us have seen this one, right?
I have not seen it.
Okay.
I've not seen a single clip from it.
Like I just said, I don't even know what it was about. So here we go. This is the synopsis I just pulled up quickly, doing some live Googling. Escaping post-war Europe, a visionary architect comes to America to rebuild his life, his career, and his marriage. On his own, in a strange new country, he settles in Pennsylvania, where a wealthy and prominent industrialist recognizes his talent.
All right, there you go.
There you go. That's not giving much away.
Sounds
right?
like a feel-good movie.
Yeah,
well,
nice, brisk, quick 90-minute movie.
Yeah, so what? Do you have the runtime on there?
I don't, but it's like 3.5 hours, right?
Yeah, so Pete and I are seeing it on 35mm. That's the format that it was filmed on. So I'm pretty excited about that. And we're going for the whole day, basically, because they throw an intermission in there, too.
Yes. I'm trying to figure 3 hours and 34 minutes, according to IMDb.
There you go. Well, would you rather be anywhere else than doing this today?
This is my vacation time.
Yeah, we're seeing this at 12:30 in the afternoon, which I think is probably the perfect time to watch a movie like this.
Yep, and it's not snowing, so I feel like every time we've come here, the last few times, it's been a bit of a snowstorm. So thankfully, the weather's not too bad today.
Yeah, I think at some point today, it's supposed to dip just above freezing temperatures. So
wow,
there's been
put my shorts on.
Yeah. I was in a different part of our regional area this weekend, and they had snowbanks that were above my head.
Oh yeah.
So we've got it a little light compared to some regions. It's really been a terrible winter here.
Yeah, it's been bad.
All right, so
yeah, where should we start then? Do we want to? I guess we got nothing to talk to about The Brutalist at this point. Should we get into other stuff?
Yeah. So this is week 4 and the last week of our Project Oscar Catchup.
Yes.
So we have
final week, right? We've seen them all now.
We've seen them all now except for this one. So we have been over the past 4 weeks going through all of our blind spots that were nominated for Best Picture. Mm-hmm. And this week we're talking about A Complete Unknown and I'm Still Here.
Yes. I think this is probably the first time maybe ever in my life I've seen all the best. Well, I mean, since they made it 10, that if I actually watched them all, because I never get around to watching them all.
I really, really try.
Yeah.
But
you try harder than I do, and I think it's still hard for you to do it, right?
Yeah, since I've had kids, it's gotten very hard. Well, and a lot of the times recently, like last 5 years or so, stuff's not really going up on streaming that much. Cause
yeah, you have to make an effort to get out and see things versus just sticking them on at home, for sure.
I think, some of these producers widely recognize that if they win Best Picture, they're like a big awards darling, they might get a post-Oscars bump.
But even when when they get nominations, they seem to want to hold streaming so that they can ride that nomination buzz.
Yeah. Well, look at this one. Like, it's showing in 35mm. Yeah, not a lot of opportunities to see new movies on film. So I'm
actually pretty excited for this one. It looks like it's pretty high on a lot of people's lists. So
yeah,
I'm excited. So
okay.
So where should we start then with this one? Want to do Bob Dylan or Brazil?
Let's why don't we start with Bob Dylan?
Sure. Yeah, I watched this one last night, so it's pretty fresh in my mind.
Yeah, I'm pretty on the record being against music biopics.
Yeah, you're pretty much against them all, right?
What you're kind of sort of the same, but you're a little more tolerant than I am.
Well, I don't mind them. Like I can enjoy watching them, but I just think that they are pretty inconsequential usually. Like it's not really worth. You don't really get a lot out of it apart from like I could have just read the Wikipedia page and got most of the same information.
Yeah.
So it's more about like I'm more into like the performances and the singing usually than I am around the story.
Yeah. Well, maybe you should just clarify here. We are going to spoil A Complete Unknown.
Yes, we will spoil it.
And
sorry, guys.
I'm still here. So if you don't want those spoiled, maybe just skip ahead. We got the time codes below the episode here.
Check the description on the app and it'll let you know where you can jump to. Or just mash that 30-second forward button. That's what I do.
So James Mangold he wrote the template for this with his movie Walk the Line.
Yeah.
Which I think is a pretty good movie overall.
It's probably the best.
It might be the best of like the straight kind of mainstream.
Exactly. Since they've been kind of popular, I think it's probably the best. It's like I think people have been trying to reach that level again, but then Dewey Cox came out and ruined it for everyone.
Well, Walk Hard is just a better movie in every regard. Like I love that movie.
It's very fair.
It's my favorite music biopic.
Can't argue against that. I would agree with that.
But what I like about Walk the Line is, it has like a very relatable.
We're also going to spoil Walk the Line.
But like his brother dies and he's carrying that trauma with him throughout his whole life, right? And that's the shape of the movie.
Yeah.
This movie, I think, does not have any shape to it whatsoever.
No, and I think that's a real hard thing to do with these musical biopics is kind of ground them, like you say, and like have like it's kind of almost like trying to make an arc for the character, or like have them have a reason for doing things versus just being like, okay, we got to hit all these beats that this guy did and show his life and his career and then end on something that historically people know about, and then we'll just do that. It's like, well, that's fine, but that's what are you adding to like anything here? That's kind of what I was alluding to earlier. It's like I didn't feel like, to your point, I didn't feel like I knew the character any more than I did before going in, or like, his reasons or his motivations as much.
I absolutely love Bob Dylan.
Yeah, me too. I'm a huge Dylan fan.
I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, that's why. So I did like the movie for that aspect of it.
But I've also seen I'm Not There.
I've not watched any of the other stuff. I know there's been a few things.
I've seen the Scorsese doc, No Direction Home.
Right.
I knew going into this movie that Bob Dylan is mysterious and aloof and a genius, and the movie doesn't have much else to say about him besides that.
No, that's kind of what I was hoping. I've not even seen those movies that you mentioned, even though I am a big fan. I just never never searched them out really. I don't know why, but yeah, even like without seeing them, I kind of knew, like what you said. Like I know who Bob Dylan is. I understand him as a character, I guess. But yeah, so that's why I was kind of hoping that there would be a bit more out of this movie to sort of dig into him a bit, but I didn't get that out of it at all.
Well, how the movie opens, I had really high hopes. And I will say, like, I still enjoyed it.
Yeah, I quite liked it. I was pretty up on it, but yeah, only for the reasons I mentioned. Like, I thought
so. Like,
the performances.
I was kind of ragging on the trailer because I didn't like the clips that they showed of like Timothée Chalamet doing the voice and stuff.
Right.
But like when the movie opens, he's in Woody Guthrie's hospital room singing to him and Pete Seeger. I'm like, you know what? He's fucking pulling this off, man. Like he's doing this.
Yeah, because I agree. Because it's easy to just fall into the like doing an impression of Bob Dylan. It's like it's like one of the easiest impressions to do, and it's like he does a great job of not falling into that kind of stereotypical.
He's doing like a very good approximation of his voice, but also like sort of doing his own thing.
Yeah, exactly.
He did agree. And like I'm already a fan of Timothée Chalamet, but like I was very sold on his performance.
Yeah, me too. I've not seen him do anything badly, to be fair to him.
When he's getting in the car with Pete Seeger after like first singing and they're driving home, they start talking about like folk and other kinds of music, and then Pete Seeger says like, "Well, all you need for a good song is just a man and a guitar." And I'm like,
pretty good.
And then right from there, I'm like, oh my God, is this movie just going to be about him going electric? Because
that's so boring.
How many times do we have to tell this exact story? Like it's
I was a bit like disappointed by that.
Like
as well.
It's literally
like,
like,
I mean. It's like we don't need this story. Like it's not even that interesting of a story.
No, like and like that's like the Scorsese movie No Direction Home is like largely about that,
right?
And
it was a very important thing that
it was very important
in history of
but
music,
like,
and
that's like the first 3 years of his career. And he has so much longer than that.
Very true. Very true.
And by the end of the movie, I'm like, what has what has Bob Dylan's arc been in this movie?
No, that's what
Like,
I couldn't figure out. It's
People,
like, what are you even
realize
trying-
he's a genius.
And
He
he's-
realizes that he can be a jerk and get away with it because he's a genius.
Yep.
And that's sort of, the movie's just sort of ends.
And he's got a pretty sweet riz.
Yeah, he does have sweet riz.
Yeah, that's kind of what I got. It's like, what were they trying? What was the point they were trying to tell me about this character? Because I didn't really feel like there was any point.
Like-
It's just like, yeah, he's Bob Dylan. You all know Bob Dylan. This is him.
Like him playing the songs that they did not want him to play
Yeah.
in the way they didn't want him to play it is pretty like rock and roll. Like
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
But like, is the movie just trying to say Bob Dylan's like a badass motherfucker? He can do whatever he wants,
right? Yeah, that's what's hard. Like, because when the movie was ending, I was like, I feel like the movie is expecting me to feel a certain way, but I'm not entirely 100% sure what that feeling is supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I was a bit like, okay, yeah, I mean, he's Bob Dylan. Thanks for explaining that to me for 2 hours, over 2 hours.
When like, you know, they're playing like all the great songs. Like, you know,
man, yeah.
it was great to know
Like
like
a jukebox, like Bob Dylan jukebox.
Yeah,
hour.
like,
I was into that.
it's great to know like how they did. Like, I didn't know that Bob Dylan's the one who also did like that whistle sound at the beginning of
Yeah,
Highway
yeah.
61. Like that was interesting to know.
Even like there was some little good tidbits in it, like the guy who plays the organ.
Yeah, he kind of
that
just
one
didn't know
scene.
what he was doing.
Yeah, like that's like a true story, but I guess he just kind of stumbled on it and he played one of the most like recognizable organ parts of all times.
But like that's like a great anecdote to hear in a documentary, right? Rather than like
sticking it in the movie for no reason. Because you're like, oh, is this character important now? And then he shows him shopping with him. It's like, no, don't worry about him anymore. It's like,
This is
what
like-
even have him in here for?
It's like, well, now I know how Han Solo won the Millennium Falcon. Okay, like
Exactly.
now I got that
Oh,
part of the lore.
we're getting into a solo spoiler special now.
Yeah, and like, you know, like a Rolling Stone, honestly, one of the best songs of all time.
Yeah.
It was great hearing that 90 seconds of it they played in this movie.
Yeah.
But like, and like, yeah, Timothée Chalamet does a great job. They're filming all of these performances in a great way. Like you can really convey like the emotion he's feeling at the time he's playing too. Like it's not just him just going up there and singing the greatest hits necessarily, but I'm always just left with like, you know, why? Like what was it supposed to take away from this whole thing?
I felt like the performance deserved a better movie, if that makes sense.
I think so. You know,
I think
like
it could have been. I mean, he could have been so much utilized so much better, and if the movie had more to say, I think.
Well, I think like, you know, I think Joaquin Phoenix's performance in Walk the Line is better than this one, and it's in a better movie.
Do you think that he flirted with the idea of having him back in? They were de-aging him a bit.
Well, the Johnny Cash in this movie is definitely like in conversation with the Johnny Cash from Walk the Line.
Definitely.
Because he's like,
It was Boyd Holbrook, right?
yeah,
He did a good job.
He's like, hey, Bob Dylan, I'm like right in the middle of my dark period right now. Like, I'm kind of at the end of the second act of Walk the Line, but I'll catch up with you a little later.
Yeah. No, I thought I was thinking like, I wonder if they asked him to come back and said it'll be great if you just came back and reprised it role, make a whole universe, a biopic universe.
The timing would have been good for you know, Phoenix's career. Like right now, he's a little bit radioactive, so like, but like filming it would have been good timing.
Plus, I mean, like he's a little bit old, right? How old was Johnny Cash supposed to be in that scene? Like not even
probably like 35 or whatever, right?
Like 30s, like.
But like
don't know if Joaquin Phoenix can pass for that anymore.
He lives some hard years.
True enough. No,
but what do you think of some of the other performances of this?
I thought they were all pretty solid, to be fair.
Yeah,
I thought they were all really good. Like there wasn't
Dakota Fanning was really good.
Yeah.
I think like just like the women in this are all just hangers on, you know, right?
Yeah,
like
which is a shame because they all did great work.
And I'm sorry for people who like this movie, who like music biopics. Like I think it's just not for me.
No,
not saying that it's a bad movie if you love it.
I think I'm probably up on it a bit more than you, but I can't argue with any of your criticisms. It's the thing, right? It's like, yeah, I understand that. But like saying all that, I had a great time.
Like the movie was selling me for a little bit.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
but
like the second half was a bit more harder to take for me, for sure.
Honestly, like with a woman lying in bed, she wakes up in the middle of the night and then there's Bob Dylan writing a song at the desk. I'm like, how many times do we have to see this exact thing?
Yeah, they did drive that home a little bit, right?
Watching like all these people just being amazed, like just like gobsmacked at Bob Dylan's genius, which I think Bob Dylan is a genius. Like no one can.
I did like the one scene though where she just like was really pissed off that he did that. She's like, "Can you stop rubbing it in my face that you're a genius?"
Yeah, like
you're such an asshole.
Like honestly, I was already impressed by you.
I kind of agree with you on that
like,
point.
This just seems performative at this point. That like you just need people to be impressed by you.
And maybe that's what they were trying to say.
I think so, but like. this movie was also blessed by Bob Dylan, which is another thing I don't like about this music biopics. Right? Like honestly, make the movie that the people don't want you to make. It depends,
right? Because you can be involved and just like still say just do what you want. Like they're like I've still not seen it, but I hear A Better Man is a lot like that, where it's just like, no, this is warts and all, like nothing's off the table, just tell my actual story.
Well, and that one's at least got something interesting going on. Like I really do want to see that.
But I thought the same about like Rocket Man, because Elton John was involved in that production, and that didn't that didn't sugarcoat much really, and that was a bit more of an interesting take. Like they try to do something different.
Well, they're doing like a magical realism with that.
Exactly.
One, right? I didn't see that one.
You didn't? Oh, that's really.
Well, good. I didn't see that one. I didn't see Bohemian. Well, I especially didn't see Bohemian Rhapsody because I'm like,
I kind of refuse to see that at this point. To be honest with you,
Queen is like producers of this film, like and like the other members of Queen are like completely delusional about their own piece of that history.
That's
and,
basically
how
people talk about that movie as well, right? It's like
it's basically people have said
it's like a fantasy.
People have said Rocket Man is good. Honestly,
give it a go, man. It's really good.
Honestly, I wouldn't.
I know you hate biopics.
I wouldn't have watched A Complete Unknown unless I had to do it for this podcast.
That's
I don't regret watching it. Like I had a really good time.
I'm just not a biopics guy.
It's just not for me.
Nothing wrong with that.
Just like whenever it's winking at the camera, I just can't stand it. Like they're like when Bob is just like walking through his apartment, then he's just like slowly piecing together like a Rolling Stone. He's like, yeah, once upon a time. Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm like, come on, man. I don't need to see him write the song. I don't.
No,
I know that
unnecessary, right?
I know that like writing music comes really easy to him. Like, but that's his whole thing.
What, though? It's interesting because I feel like maybe if you are a fan of these kind of movies, that's exactly what you want to see. It's like when you go to see a Marvel movie and you're like, I know that reference.
You know what? That's a really good point.
So you're like really into it. You're like, oh, I know that line from that song I really like. This is really exciting for me.
Yeah. Well, and like I've been that dork, like getting into that stuff. So I don't mean to yuck anybody's yum. I'm just being true to my own experience here. I just don't.
But you know what? Like for you to have positive things to say about this one, though, I think that just should let people know that it's probably quite good if you're into this kind of thing. Because Trevor hates these movies.
I do hate these movies. I thought Ed Norton as Pete Seeger was really great.
He was really great. I
don't really think he tried to like smash up.
No, and I saw a quote from him about that, and I guess like he went back there and argued with the sound guys because the sound was garbage. They couldn't hear him singing. And he was like, it's too loud. Like that's why I kept put in specific lines because there's like, this is what people really said. Because he did say like, it's too loud. You need to mix it better. And then apparently he did say, if I had an axe, I would chop these wires. So that's why they actually put a shot of him going towards the axes, which never happened. But like, apparently they weren't like, there wasn't big animosity about that night at all. Well, like they make it way more dramatic than it was.
You can't just walk up onto a stage and then set up to play like that without people figuring out what you're doing.
They knew what he was doing for sure.
Just them picking that part at the Newport Festival where he goes electric, but then they have to put some drama around that, right?
It's funny, I think, because I think what they did as well was that they took a lot of elements of that whole time and put it into that one place. Because I know a little bit of tidbit of Dylan. You know, someone screams at him, Judas, and he's like, "I don't believe you." That
was a different concert.
That was actually in Manchester, England.
Okay,
when he was touring, when he did that first tour, and he went electric, and people in Manchester went apeshit at him. So I think they just took elements of like that whole period of time and just condensed it into that one. It probably was nothing even that bad at that time. People were probably just a bit more confused than anything.
It's like, hey, we came here to see some folk music. What's going on?
You're not going to boo Bob Dylan, no matter what he does.
Yeah, and I think like the movie does do like a good job in showing like, some people seem to be into it and like want to hear the guy out. Like,
true.
Because like they did come there to see him and like they are aware that he is recording this stuff. Well, I guess the internet wasn't really a thing back then, so maybe you are just surprised. I don't know.
I did like the bit where like he refused to play, or was it Blowing in the Wind or whatever, when he's on tour and he's like, I'm just like, I'm just gonna leave, or just walks off stage. Like I would see more of that. Like,
well, that was filmed very much like Walk the Line, like of Johnny Cash, going off the rails and stuff, and very similar to the Doors too. Like when they show like Doors performances that were like disastrous.
The other thing that I was a bit disappointed, sorry to cut you off there, but the other thing I was pretty disappointed about with the movie was they didn't really get into like the political side of things much. Like they kind of skirted around like the social rights movements and stuff that he was very much involved in, and they kind of have him in the background, but they didn't really get into that.
That's a really good point. Like,
which I was like, well, why? That's a really interesting like part of it. Like, I don't care about who he's banging. I wanted to know about like what he was thinking around these issues.
Exactly. Well, Pete Seeger keeps talking about like how like folk music is like a force for changing good, and they put that sort of thing in the end scroll. But like, you don't really see what's important to them.
They have like the bigger like things that happened during the time, right? With like Martin Luther King and
just mentioning these things
JFK
happening
and all those things.
Bob Dylan does not seem to care.
No, he's just like this stuff's happening in the world as well. But yeah, I guess Bob Dylan's not really affecting this story at all, so we won't get into it. It's like, well, I'm pretty sure it probably did. And I think they were trying to say it did, but they didn't like show that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was talking about the story. I think they could have got into things in a bit more detail. It was just seemed very surface level. It was just like, yeah, this is the stuff, and I'm like, all right, well, great.
Yeah, like once they made the decision to focus on him, going electric, I think they had to just make some cuts, like because you could have easily made the story around him having a passion for like helping people and picking causes and stuff.
Exactly,
because but then they're like, oh, but that would like extend way past 1964, so maybe we don't do that.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I guess they wanted to contain it to something that they could tell in 2 hours.
I guess, but yeah, I don't know, like if this is someone's first introduction to Bob Dylan, which a lot of the time these movies, that is the introduction.
Yep, true.
What is a person takeaway for that? I
don't know.
It's
hard to say, but
anyways. Bob Dylan's really great. I've been listening to the No Direction Home soundtrack a lot since I watched this movie.
I've had a lot of music in my head this morning after watching that last night.
Yeah. Well, we should jump ahead to...
Yeah, that's enough Bob Dylan talk.
Anyways, pretty good movie.
Yeah, pretty good.
I don't like these kind of movies, though. So.
No, good performances, though. I can tell why it's been getting a bit of attention.
All right, so I'm Still Here.
Yes.
Which I was getting a little mixed up on the title of this movie because there is a Joaquin Phoenix movie called I'm Still Here that came out in 2009,
there is,
which I think is a pretty good movie.
Yeah, that was when he did the whole performance thing, right?
He took 2 years out of his life to pretend to be a rap artist.
Yeah, I never actually watched that when it came out, but I remember the whole thing happening.
I think it's basically just like performance art. Like the guy turned his life into one big prank on everybody. Which
it's like an Andy Kaufman type thing.
It totally is. So I think it is a very interesting curio to look back on. Directed by Casey Affleck, weirdly.
Yeah, I remember that.
So movie the same title, but then there's also I'm Not There, which is the other Bob Dylan movie that we were talking about.
Confusing week.
But anyway, so I didn't really know much about this movie going in, except it was about like the fascist regime in Brazil.
Yeah, which apparently I discovered I didn't really know much about either. To my chagrin, I guess I don't know much about geopolitical history because I didn't know anything about what was going on in Brazil in the 70s.
Well, it was just a bad time.
Apparently so, pretty bad, yeah.
A bad time.
Yeah.
So what did you think about this movie?
I really liked this one. It took me a little bit to get into because, as you said, I wasn't really sure what the movie was about, and I was kind of a bit not knowing where it was going. But then when I kind of locked in with it, I think I just really loved it, and by the end of it, it really affected me quite a lot. I think, just in terms of how I was really focused on the family aspect of it, which I wasn't really expecting going in as much.
Yeah, like I wasn't quite sure what the politics of this family was when it first started, because they're clearly well off.
Yeah, it doesn't really spoon feed stuff to you. I think it takes a while to even reveal what the guy is like, why the guy is a person of interest. They never really get into it apart from halfway through the movie.
They sort of mention when the people from the military are picking him up that he's a former congressman.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. And he kept having these secretive phone calls, but I didn't know what they were. I was asking my wife during the movie, I'm like, is he like a drug dealer or something? What's going on?
It kind of just kept that kind of in the dark, right? But I think at the end, the point was that it didn't really matter what he was doing because it could have been nothing. It could have been something. It just didn't really care. But they were going to take him off anyway.
Yeah, and I found as the movie was going on and on, I was getting very mad.
Yeah.
'Cause I just when she stormed out and started like banging on the glass, those people who were like surveilling the home, I'm like,
when the dog dies.
Yeah, I'm like, I would break that window.
Yeah.
Like
It would be so heartbreaking though, because like you've been nothing, when there's nothing you can do, and it's just like the worst injustice ever. And and the fact that there was no closure for like over 20 odd years, it's just crazy. Like I can't even imagine having to go through that. It was with 5 kids, and that's why it affected me so much. Is like you can put yourself in the position and just be like,
what if I was abducted in the night? Like what would my family do?
Or what if my wife was abducted? Even like, you know what I mean? It's like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah,
it's great. It really affected me. I thought it was really well done.
One, things are still pretty messed up in Brazil. Like a large section of like the voting bloc in that country wants to go back to that sort of thing. Like the previous president of Brazil, like idolized the leaders of the fascist regime, and I like wanted to go back to it.
That's tough, man.
And like there's still people like in charge of the military there today who like were like young officers like participating in those kind of terrible crimes.
That was at the end when it had like the updates at the end, and it was just like when they finally admitted who it was that did it, and then they're like, neither of them had anything happen to him.
So I looked it up after the movie, and there's like in the late 70s there was an amnesty law passed, basically saying like, no one from the military can be convicted for their crimes.
Anything that's happened.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
When I think, is it last year or the year before, Argentina 1985 came out, and it's about like prosecuting, members of the government from the fascist Argentinian government, and it's basically like the same sort of stuff, like just like abducting people who are political enemies, calling everybody a communist, I guess, and then giving yourself permission to just be a terrible person, do whatever you want to them. So. Yeah, I was getting pretty emotional while watching this too. Like, I feel like we're going down a very dark path in the world right now.
Well, the other thing I thought, I kind of, because I didn't know the story at all and I hadn't looked into it, so there was a part of me that was like, I guess it was just being hopeful that like, oh, they're going to find out that he's actually alive, and they find him in jail somewhere, and he gets to come back and reunite with his family. I was like holding out hope that would be the case, and then as it went on, I just realized like, no, like that's not what this is about. This is about how they're dealing with that.
Well, and even the people in the movie, they established that, this like is unfortunate, but this happens sometimes. Like, but he's a very important person, so they're not going to kill him. They're probably going to hold him for 3 months just to be dicks and then let him go. But he's too important to just disappear entirely. And then I think like almost at the halfway point, a friend of theirs says, it's been kind of confirmed to us through back channels that he was murdered.
Yeah.
But we can't even get them to admit that he was arrested.
Yeah, and we can't even go on the record and say that we know that he is. So it's just like you have to sort of just live your life.
Well, it's honestly like people in this government have read, books about all the terrible things that other governments have done in history, and like, okay, let's do stuff like this. Like, this is really good for intimidation tactics.
Yeah.
And like, I think they have like one book of enemies of the state that they're just adding to, and she's like, did you add a picture of me and my daughter to this? Like, what is wrong with you?
It's like everyone they pull in, they just take a picture of. That's my kid's teacher.
This has not been tailored for me at all.
Can you even imagine having to do that? It'd just be like so terrifying if random people show up at your house and put a hood on you and take you off to some random place where you're stuck for a week.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's scary. It's terrifying. Really.
It's very terrifying. Like this movie really hit home, and I feel like it, like, on one hand, like it almost went on for too long into the future, but
I did kind of like that though, because like I was saying, I thought the movie was going to be about hope. You know what I mean? It's all about hope and never giving up and always having hope and that things are going to work out, and then they will. But then like I realized towards the end of the movie, it's not about that. It's about like, no matter how much hope you have, sometimes it's just, there's nothing you can do and everything's shit and you have to deal with that somehow.
Well, and I think it was pretty smart to like, the last act is kind of framing her with Alzheimer's.
Yes.
But then it shows that even with Alzheimer's, she makes an effort to not forget the stuff that happens. And I think that's kind of the takeaway of the movie is like, we have to not just like get numb to this stuff. Like we have to remember it.
That's a good take. Actually, I like that.
So anyways, I thought that it's a very good movie and about a very terrible thing, but it's.
I thought her performance was really excellent though.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't be upset if she got an award for that.
Yeah, well, I was looking her up a little bit, and I think she's just the second Brazilian to get nominated for an Oscar, and I think the
Oh, really?
first person was her mom.
Oh,
If I was reading that correctly, I'm sorry if I've gotten that wrong.
That'd be crazy.
But yeah, this director, Salles, I believe is his last name.
Right.
I haven't seen anything by him, but like he had like a pretty big international hit with Central Station in the 90s.
Okay.
Curious to check that out.
Yeah, I'll have to look that up as well because this one really affected me.
Yeah. Well, again, I don't have like a big history with Brazilian films. Like I think I've seen
me
like,
neither.
2 or 3, maybe 4 now with this one. So I definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah. All right then. There we go. I'm still here. It's what it's called. I almost forgot again.
I'm still here. I'd say don't sleep on this one.
No, definitely seek it out. Yeah.
It's a very relevant movie, I think, in today's political climate.
Without getting too much into it, yeah. That's the reason why it's terrifying.
Maybe we could, when we do a Patreon for this finally, we could that's the one where we just say whatever we think.
Where we just say all the hot button topics.
Yeah, exactly.
Just lose all our Patreon fans immediately, or half of them at least. All right, well, we made it. We made it to the theater.
If you are new to the podcast, Pete and I are going to go and watch The Brutalist, and then come back and give you a spoiler-free reaction to the movie we saw before giving you plenty of warning before heading into spoiler talk. It's going to be a few seconds for you. It's going to be about 4 hours for Pete and I.
Yeah, this is a long one.
I'm very excited
with an intermission, right? So yeah, it's going to be a while. I'm going to be hungry probably.
Well, yeah, definitely wish us luck for this one, but we're going to try to get the good comfy seats early.
We'll see how we do on that. All right, guys. Yeah, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back to talk more after this.
Bye.
Welcome back, everyone. We're just heading out of the theater after seeing The Brutalist, 35mm film. Looked pretty good, right?
It was a gorgeous picture.
Right?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to like give some color commentary on our theater experience because it was
probably get into that.
It was kind of wild.
Yeah, not what I was anticipating, to be honest with you.
Like as a viewing experience, it was really great.
Watch this person here.
Yeah, they look like they're about to back up. Well, as we will allude to, Pete and I were by far the youngest people in the theater. Like it was
nervous trying to get out of this.
It wasn't even close.
This very tight parking lot we're in here. I'm not. No judgment on any older listeners, but it makes me nervous.
But there were these
mostly women as well, right?
This group of like four older women who
I was surprised.
I think were like there to catch up.
Yeah, they definitely were.
And they were talking very loudly, throughout the opening credits.
Yeah.
And as the overture starts, I'm like, well, okay, surely now they will be quiet. And they started talking louder to hear each other over the overture. And they kept talking until like thankfully someone
I think it was someone they were with.
Said like, hey, can you stop talking to me?
Do you not see everyone staring at us?
Yeah, it was a little wild. And then right after that, another person like burst in, like put the flashlight on their phone and was just like scanning the whole theater with it. It was
on the highest setting. It was like not a flashlight.
Yeah, it had to have been the highest setting.
Yeah, it was an interesting. Then it all seemed to happen again once we got to the intermission. The talking started again. The lights came back out.
Yeah, I was really expecting more like, and not to say like there weren't any like film buffs and Oscar buffs there,
some cinephiles.
But yeah, it just seemed like a lot of people just kind of wandered in.
Yeah, I did kind of feel a bit like bingo just let out before it started.
But anyways, I do think that this was the perfect time of day to see this movie in.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I actually I didn't feel like it felt as long as it did.
No, it's funny. I was going to say that. Like even at the intermission, I kind of felt like, oh, it's intermission already. Like it wasn't feeling like I needed an intermission at that point even, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, I'm not sure if it was to the movie, if that's like to the movie's credit, or if it's just because we're way earlier than we normally are. Because normally it'd be like 2:00 in the morning now if we'd watched it at regular time.
Yeah, well, and pretty much we picked the time that this was showing at our local theater at the only time that it would be like
reasonable.
Yeah, reasonable to do so. This guy here. Getting out of this parking lot is an absolute nightmare though.
Yeah.
We do really go and record right after we go see the show.
We're not lying. We're like literally trying to drive here. So All right, we made it out of the parking lot, guys.
Yeah, and then there were people who were like coming in like 50 minutes late.
Yeah, like
And then,
like literally 50. That's 50 minutes late.
and then those same women, like two of them got up and left. I don't know if they had a prior engagement they had to get to.
They didn't come back, right?
No, they didn't come back. Like I thought that they had gotten offended. At something that was going on.
I mean, there's things to get offended of in this movie. We'll get into
but
that.
it was like before like the really
Egregious
offensive
stuff.
thing happened.
Right.
I think, yeah, like we could talk a bit more about what happened in the plot and at what point they left. Yeah. What were your like overall impressions of the movie?
Of the movie, I thought it was really good. I thought it was really well done. I can understand why it's getting the hype it's getting. I think it's it took me a while to figure out where it was like. I think I've said this before, but like what it was trying to say, where it was trying to go. But I think I thought it did a really good job of like wrapping it all up at the end and making a good point of what it was overly trying to say. Because I feel like I've found that difficult lately. Is when I get to the end of a movie, I've been a bit like, especially with these Oscar nomination movies, I've been a bit struggling to be like, what was this trying to say? Like as a story, what was the point it was trying to make? Like even the ones I've enjoyed and have been really good to watch, I've been struggling a bit to like understand like, okay, well, are you trying to tell me something like profound here, or is it just like just sit through this? But with this one, I kind of like I really like feel like it made a great point of what it was trying to say, and I thought it was like obviously shot really well and acted really well. It really impressed me, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel the same. Like I would love to talk through kind of the messaging of the movie because I'm still chewing on a little bit.
Yeah.
That coda that they put on the end like really surprised me.
Yes.
But I was quite happy with kind of where it ended because that did really bring it all home, I think.
Yeah, and that's the point I made, because I feel like some movies wouldn't. There's an alternate reality where they made the decision not to do that and just be like, people figure it out, which I think happens a lot now. But I really appreciate when it's like, in case you're wondering, this is the point we were making of the movie, and this is what we're going to overtly tell you in case you didn't quite catch it. And yeah, I really appreciate that. I was like, right, I see now what it was. I see what this was all about. All these things that happened. I understand what you were trying to say now. Well, I think I do, sort of. A bit more than I would have without that, let's say that much.
So, unlike, say, The Substance, you are a fan of this one being nominated for Best Picture.
Yes. No, like I felt like I crapped too much on The Substance. Like, if anyone listened to our episode when I talked about The Substance, I didn't quite like that one very much. But yeah, I preferred this for The Substance. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, well, maybe we can get into some reviews of the performances and other details kind of in broad terms before we go into spoilers. Oh, how did you feel about Adrien Brody to start off with?
I mean, he's good, isn't he? He's very good. It's like it's not really breaking anyone's expectations to say he did a really good job, but he really did do a good job, I think. He's just got such a great he's one of those face actors, you know what I mean?
Well, he
conveys everything just through his face.
Born with the perfect face, like really, like.
But he uses it so well. Also, it's like some really subtle things in his face can like change how you feel about a certain scene.
So, would you say he or like someone like Robert De Niro is a better face actor? Like, because he's pretty good.
Yeah. That's a good question.
Early on in the movie, they made a comment about
they got a huge laugh in our theater.
He's like, someone makes a comment about his nose, and I guess his nose is broken. I'm like, I don't think I noticed because he has just like such a distinctive face and such a distinctive nose. I had noticed
that his nose was like
askew a little bit.
Well, not askew, but it was like grazed. It was like red, and like he'd been in an accident. And so when they made the comment about like, oh, what's wrong with your nose? I don't think anybody else in the theater had realized that his nose was hurt because everyone burst out laughing. And I was like, oh, I can see how in context that could be quite funny. But I was like, no, I legitimately think she just meant he's got a obviously broken nose.
Yeah. Well, and even before that, a woman says to him like, "You are very ugly," and he's like, "I know." I don't think Adrien Brody is ugly at all. Like, he has like he has a very like just like distinct face. Like he's kind of just like it's kind of movie ugly, but he's a very like still like a very
I
striking
like that movie
guy.
ugly. Well, it's not ugly. He's
No, I don't.
He's got the big schnoz.
That's what I mean. Like
there's a fellow big schnoz person.
if you saw Adrien Brody in real life, you would go like, oh, that's a very good looking guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like only in the context of this movie would you say he's ugly.
Yeah, and they don't even go overboard on trying to ugly him up.
I don't think so.
No,
No.
like he looks pretty good.
I think even more so than Adrien Brody, I was really impressed by Felicity Jones's performance.
And I was actually surprised by how late she is introduced into the movie. I mean, it's a long movie, so it's not like she still gets a good chunk of the movie, but like it was like
Act 2
after the intermission is when she shows up, right?
Yeah,
Or
so
I guess that's a spoiler, but sorry.
I guess so, but I don't know if it is like it kind of like is talking about structure.
Yeah,
a spoiler, but
I mean everyone knows she's in the movie. It's
yeah,
a spoiler that she shows up.
And then when you saw her character, you start thinking, okay, she's good. She's probably going to be like this type of character, but then she's completely not.
Yes, well, and the movie does that a lot with like really playing with your expectations of what you think is going to happen, or how you think a character's going to be, and then just really flipping it.
Yes.
Which I thought it did a few times.
Well, and like who is a good person and who's a bad person in this movie is very interesting.
What makes a good person and what doesn't, right?
Yeah. But no, I guess broadly, I really liked all the performances.
Mm-hmm.
Guy Pearce, like I it's still not a guy like I'm completely sold on his recent
still not a guy
stuff.
Like,
yeah, I didn't mean to do that, to be honest.
Well,
like
I thought
he's the only one I wasn't crazy about.
He was doing when it started. I thought he was veering a bit towards caricature of like I'm a rich white guy from this era. But I think he, like in that case, like literally when he gets mad and like his hair quiffs up in like a comedic manner, it's like it was almost like a parody character at points. But I mean, in that context, I thought he did it. It was fine. I thought he's usually pretty solid.
I think I'm very biased about his performance in The Shrouds, which I think he's really bad in. And so
I've forgotten about it, to be honest.
I was kind of approaching it like, guy, you got to dig yourself out of a hole here.
I think I just gave him a pass on that one because I've totally forgotten most of it.
Well, I should just watch Memento and then get back on the Guy Pearce train. But he's a character. He's playing a character who's putting on performances, right?
Exactly. So and he's very big. And
So I should be looking at it through that lens, but I guess he didn't quite win me over, but that's not necessarily his fault.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm bringing my own baggage to this movie.
Don't bring your Guy Pearce baggage to this movie, Trevor. He was all right. He was fine. But I agree. I think it's more the character. Not that it was badly written. I think he was just written to be sort of over the top and over and kind of fake. So if you act that well, then it looks like you're being fake. But
yeah, well, exactly. Like he's supposed to be playing like, I'm big, I'm bombastic, I'm eccentric, exactly. and this is what people expect me to be like, so that's what I'll be.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked him in that in the early conversation so it's Harrison and Laszlo were having like at the dinner party. Yeah, they're kind of like talking about their past and their motivations and their passions.
Yeah, that was a really great scene. Like Adrien Brody was so good in that scene.
Yeah, well, because he's like,
and that kind of without going into spoilers, that's kind of like the crux of the whole movie. I think is in that conversation.
Yes,
which we'll get into. But
talking about like constructing a cube.
Yeah, well, what is it all about, and what is it for, and what are you trying to do? What do you want? What are you trying to do in life?
Yeah, and basically just it's kind of just like a hidden movie about movie making, right? Like,
okay.
I guess.
Yeah, I guess you could look at it that way for sure.
We talked a bit about the cinematography, but we should probably call that out again. Like, this is an absolutely gorgeous shot movie. Yeah. We saw it on 35 millimeter film, the way it was filmed, and
that helps, I guess.
Way it was intended to see, and I had a great viewing experience overall, despite all the antics of all the people around us.
Exactly. I also like the stylistic choices that they made with some of that stuff, like interspersing like photos and archival footage and just a different way it was shot. I found it quite well done and interesting.
Well, yeah, certainly making some very interesting choices. There's some like time jumps that
Yes.
you're kind of not really prepared for.
Yeah, some of the bits, which we can get into in spoilers as well, I did struggle, and I still do find a bit confusing as to like what we skipped and what we missed out and that kind of thing. But I didn't find it as jarring as I've seen in where it's happened other times, where you're like totally confused as to what's going on.
Right.
Like, where are we now? Who are we talking to? It was more a bit like, oh,
we're in 1958 now.
yeah, and
Here we go.
I like the way it told you what years each part spanned. I was appreciating that. It was like, okay, here's the first part. This is between this year and this year. I was like, okay, good.
Well, it's kind of interesting because in part 2, like we don't really spend very long into part 2 before it just like jumps really forward in time.
Yeah.
And it's interesting kind of overall structure because there's 2 parts in a coda to this, and then can argue about how many acts are within those parts. I don't know. I'd have to sit down and map it out what exactly the overall structure is, but it's very unique movie. I think the story overall is like I really thought I knew exactly where it was going, and then it really surprised me in a good way.
Yeah, similar to me. I didn't think, I had no idea where it was going, to be honest with you. I was a bit like, okay, I'm with this, but I'm not sure. Like as I say, I'm not sure where this is going to go and where, and what it's going to try and say in the end. But yeah, I also was happy by the end. It really worked for me.
Well, anything else we should talk to?
I feel have we missed anything out? Well, we talked about most of everything, right?
All right.
Yeah. Okay. So we both quite liked this one.
We both liked it. We're gonna time code this episode, and at the end, Pete and I are gonna talk about our favorite movies of the year and give some Oscar predictions. So if you don't want spoilers for The Brutalist, you can go ahead and jump ahead to that part of the episode.
If you should wish.
if you should. You should. I think you should.
You really should. It's going to be great. It's going to be a lot of fun stuff.
Okay, so if spoilers bother you, why don't you drop off now?
Yeah, we're going to get into spoilers, so you've been warned.
Okay, where do you want to jump into?
I don't know. Where's the best place to jump into? Well, how about maybe we just talk about the ending, I guess.
Okay, sure.
So, before getting into the ending of it, is it purposely left ambiguous as to what happened at the end with, I forget all the characters' name, with Guy Pearce's character and
Harrison Van Buren, I think his name is,
his wife's character, Felicity Jones' character.
It's Ursabeth, I think her name is.
Elsabeth or whatever.
Yeah.
Because she goes and confronts him, and then she leaves, but then he also disappears, and then when we pick it up later on, she's no longer around.
Yeah.
And it's not explained what happened to him. So I'm guessing that's just supposed to be ambiguous, because they were looking for him at the building, and I was assuming they were going to find him there, but they don't.
Well, and they also said to like the little fucking asshole son character,
right? Yeah.
The daughter said like,
he played asshole really well.
Said like, what have you done? And so it kind of leaves you wondering like how much did he hurt her when he threw her to the ground?
I guess.
But yeah, I think that it's implied that Guy Pearce's character killed himself.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean, and that's what I took from it as well. But I just found it interesting that they didn't overtly affirm or deny that.
Yeah,
like why? I was wondering what you thought the decision was to not show that, because.
Well, and I think that's where the coda comes so important, is that
it doesn't matter.
It shows that he was finally recognized as a great creative artist,
right?
Divorced from having to deal with a monster,
right.
And so it kind of showed that you don't have to sell your soul to kind of be successful or to be happy,
right.
And you'll probably be more happy if you don't sell your soul. So it doesn't really matter what happened to him, because
that's a great point. I think that is what it's saying, right?
They stripped all of his power away by naming him as a monster. And so his fate is ultimately unimportant.
So I mean, I kind of understand that, and I agree somewhat with that. But then why leave it ambiguous around her character also?
I don't know. Like I guess
because they could have very easily have explained in that coda, like say, like what happened to that character. I mean, they just obviously she probably maybe just died from old age, but they could have just said that, right? Like they could have just said, "Oh, and she died later on." And
I don't know. Do you have any theories on that one?
I don't. I mean, I guess the thing that I took away from it maybe is just like it's like you said, it's not really important because I think that's like, but I don't know because
I think she must have lived after that, and I think that their relationship was stronger.
Yeah, and I'd like, and I would tend to agree. I just find it interesting when filmmakers make specific choices not to implicitly say things, and I don't really understand why in certain cases. But
there's certainly got to be a purpose to it. Maybe they thought, saying, oh, she died in 1980 or whatever, just would be a bit too distracting.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know either. But I did I did really like the way it ended. It's like I like the juxtaposition between the opening shot and the end shot of that one of the I'm terrible with character names, but the Sophia, was it?
Yeah, I think there's a Z up there. It's like so maybe it's a J, like Jophia
or something. Yeah. But we'll just butcher the pronunciation of all
these things. We're trying our best, definitely. Yeah. Well, and that's like part of the
actually call it out in the movie.
In the movie, he's like, do you go by Elizabeth? And she's like, you can call me that if you want to.
And he's like, fine. No, it's not that. Yeah, which happens a lot.
Yeah. So, do you think that's because it's not really said, but do you think that the son assaulted Sophia's character?
That's another thing, right? They really left that ambiguous too, which I found interesting because he goes over to see her and she's like just in her swim stuff, right? And then she comes running over.
She's fully clothed and she's
like,
kind of still
looking like she's getting herself together, and he's like sort of chasing her, looking a bit like flustered. So you could read that either way, like he's done something and then she's running away, or she just immediately got up and ran away.
Yeah,
before he had a chance to do anything. Yeah, because I was surprised they didn't revisit that. I thought maybe that was going to be something that came up in like the third act where she's like pregnant now.
Well,
I can't say who.
That's where I thought it was going.
Yeah, and then it just
jumps ahead 5 years.
It just jumps ahead 5 years. Like, no, she's married now, talking. I'm like, okay.
And then she can talk. Yeah, so that in itself is a very interesting choice, right? Because obviously something happened to her in the war that she viewed like horrible things, or she had to do horrible things. It kind of hints that she had to do something horrible. Yeah,
even in like the letter, right? Which says like she's getting a bunch of attention from soldiers and stuff.
Yeah. So then
I think maybe honestly though, I think that might be what he's trying to say. Is like all these things could have happened, maybe happened, terrible things do happen, but you know what? Like it's not about all that stuff. It's just about where you are at the end of the day. Like it says, it's like it's not about the journey, it's about the destination. So it's like all these things that may or may not happen to you during your life don't define you. It's like it's how you choose to be, I guess.
And I think it's saying like, well, at least I think it's saying it. It's not that, everything will be fine. No. Don't worry about it. It's that like you can kind of make some sort of peace with your past and then like move on and from like a position of like, just being more comfortable with who you are.
Yeah.
And being more true to your authentic self, I think, is what was kind of Laszlo's issue.
Yeah, true.
And like, it was kind of like, just like played out through his like impotence throughout the movie, right? And like, it took like a kind of a miracle heroin session with him and his wife for them to kind of finally repair their relationship.
Yeah, I did love the way they didn't make him like infallible character. He's like makes really bad choices a lot of the time, and he's really flawed character, but he's just a lot of the time he's just doing his best and doing what he can.
Yeah.
Because when it starts, he could easily be framed as like, oh, he's like this idyllic immigrant just doing what he can and getting being down, but it's like, well, he's not perfect. He's doing stuff he probably shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's why those women left. It was like during a scene where it's kind of hinting that he's gonna cheat on his wife. Right, he sort of like did. He's like sort of making out with the woman on the dance floor, and that's when they left. So I'm like, oh, okay, I guess maybe they're offended by this.
Yeah.
And then they missed like something really horrendous, which like honestly, like that just like shook me to my core. Like it
was funny though, because like it didn't shock me as if like I didn't see it coming or it came out of nowhere. But like I felt like in my subconscious I kind of thought about it, and that's why I thought it was well done, because like they kind of built this thing where he's obviously not got a partner in the whole movie, and he's a rich, influential dude. He should have someone knocking around.
Yeah.
And
he couldn't get on with his wife.
He couldn't get on with his wife, and he really loves being with Laszlo and talking with Laszlo. And he says it a couple of times, like, I found it really stimulating, that conversation with you.
Well, it's funny.
So it's like a weird undertone of like, this guy's really into this other guy because he loves architecture, I guess.
Well, you know what? I got to tell you, I wasn't suspecting it at I
wasn't expecting it to go that far, but I thought there was like a weird relationship going on with them.
I was more kind of viewing it like he just like wants to like is not creative, and he wants to he wants to kind of like live vicariously through someone who like is obviously, you know, a genius artist, and he's just not that person, but he wants to like be as close to him as whatever.
Well,
but
I think that's what it is as well, though, right? And then that was kind of his way of still lording it over him. He would still be like, I'm still better than you, even though you have all these things that I want.
Well, and it's exactly like, and it turns into like the ultimate power conversation, right? And like, you know, he's basically Harvey Weinstein, right? Who like who like, you know, just does these terrible things to these people because he can, and he like usually gets away with it.
Exactly. Yeah.
But no, like honestly, like I was not expecting that at all. Like I didn't think like he had like those sort of feelings towards him at all.
Well, the other thing as well, maybe it's not a feelings thing at all. It's just a weird, like you say, it's like a power dynamic, and he's just trying to, like, he's jealous of him, but also wants to be here, but also wants to show that he can take him whenever he wants. That kind of thing. People are weird like that, right? But I found it interesting because I think they kind of played it as well, that the son kind of knew a bit about that stuff going on, because he even like mentions like, he does these like fleets of fancies all the time, and like he's a bit uncontrollable, and like when the accusation happens, he goes like from 1 to 100 super fast, like he's not even like that's crazy. He's not even like that's crazy. He's like
not surprised.
He's like really just angry straight away.
You know what? Like they did like seed that throughout.
They did.
I probably should have picked up on it, but I more took it like, you know, like these. Well, and the wife says the same thing, like. He probably thinks of this like redoing a kitchen. Like you just got to keep his attention on this thing and keep him excited about it, because like this is what like patrons like this do. Like they just want to feel important. They want to feel excited about something. For whatever reason, he's picked a number that's their budget, and then Laszlo's like offers to sacrifice his salary to keep some integrity in the project. But like this guy, like he could add another $1 million to the project. It wouldn't make a difference.
You'd think so, although he looked pretty upset about it when the train crashed. It's funny though, because they did sort of like you say, they do see that he's a bit of a weird, creepy guy, and he's like a bit all over the place with like being super nice, but then also like saying things that are just super like harsh and like uncalled for. It's just like, wow, you're a dick.
One, like he really wants to congratulate himself on being helpful, but it's all completely self-serving.
Exactly,
right?
Yeah.
Like. It's not really said in this way, but there are undertones of like, you have to do this project for me if you want your wife to come over.
Yeah,
here, right? Like I have connections that can make this happen.
Yeah. It's funny how like there's certain points where like the veil slips and he just like says things that are just like properly like racist or like horrible, and he's just like, and then he catches himself sort of almost, but like people are just like, oh shit, like he's a monster.
Well, and like. There's this anti-Semitism course that runs through the movie, and it's explored in very interesting ways. Like when Laszlo's giving his demonstration of the community center to the townsfolk, the one guy stands up and he's like, "I want you to read some of the anonymous suggestions from the box," and then Laszlo, like, in case someone put one in there, in like non-direct terms, is like, "Yeah, well, like I know a lot of you put down that you don't like that I'm Jewish and you don't like that I'm a foreigner and I'm the one running this project. But you know, a big like Christian cross is going to come through the sunbeam, and that seems to make everybody happy. Like, oh, okay, there we go.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
And like they hire on this other architect basically just to be a face to say like, hey, you know, like we're not just putting the Jewish person in charge of this. Like they're
the altercations he has with that guy is so funny. It's like just like.
It's like, oh, you built a shopping mall, did you?
I love when he comes over and he's like, everything that's ugly or stupid
Or cruel.
it's all you.
Yeah.
Just so like, oh man.
But that stuff really makes me think like that is, Brady Corbet, the director,
Right.
just
Talking about
just showing like, this is like a studio bringing on a producer to like say like,
yeah, that's a good point. I didn't really make that connection. With
I made this 4-quadrant hit, so you should be listening to me on how we do things.
Right.
And he's like, I'm trying to make a piece of art, you idiot.
Yes, exactly. Speaking of which, so at the very end when they're talking about the building and the completion, so is the idea that he was like representing Dachau in the building of that thing?
Yeah, like we kind of just find out at the end that
I thought they did a really good job of just like, yes, that was happening, but you didn't really pay attention because I'm personally pretty dumb when it comes to architecture.
Well, honestly, like we went to Spain and we saw like all this like great architecture by Gaudi, and we're like, I'm like really impressed by this. I don't know what any of this means. Then our tour guide like tells us like what this is expressing. I'm like, oh, okay, like I get it. I get it now.
Right.
And it's amazing that these geniuses can convince people to like let them build things with it's just like, you're making this functional art project that, people live in and occupy. It's quite incredible.
Because like in this movie, it's like people complain like, why are the rooms so small and the ceiling's so big? Like it doesn't make any sense. And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. It's because of art and all that. It's like there's a specific reason why he was doing that.
This is a metaphor about like how my wife and I wanted to be together when we were both in the camps. These high ceilings are our salvation.
Yes.
And that's why he sacrifices his salary to do it. Like it's quite powerful. Like it really does hit you. And the way that's why
it's so good at wrapping up at the end, because like all that stuff is just like it's in the movie, but you don't see it's not spoon fed to you that's what it's about until at the end you're like, oh crap, right?
Yeah.
All that stuff I was watching like in the background, that was the main point of the movie, I guess.
Well, that's why I think that after the events of the movie, I think his wife did live, and I think they very obviously stayed in America because he's doing all these projects in America.
Yeah, I did show that, right?
But I think I think he realizes that their partnership is his strength, and then
what's interesting though, because she said she wanted to leave and go to Israel to be with the niece.
Yeah,
right?
I think that they stayed.
Well, that's what I mean. Maybe if she didn't survive, maybe he stayed by himself.
Well, I think that she wanted to leave because she said she thought that this is a cesspool. We have to get out of here. But then, after the events of that night, for whatever reason, they decided to stay.
Yeah.
Because I think they decided that just the two of them together could overcome all of the negativity.
Yeah, I could see. It's just funny, interesting that they left it ambiguous.
When it was showing all the architecture projects, though, did it feature one in Israel?
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I don't think it did. I think they were all I'm wondering if they're all in Connecticut.
I'm wondering if I missed something or a line or something in the background that kind of made it a bit more obvious of what was supposed to have happened. So maybe I just need to see it again.
Yeah,
but I feel like it didn't really explain what happened.
I feel like he broke down his walls, and then that allowed them to fully be together and then have a partnership, and then that's how he was able to find success ultimately in America. Right. Yeah. Anyways, that's how I'm reading it.
I like that.
That's the more romantically read of the movie, anyways. But I don't know. She might have not lived.
And I guess the point is that maybe you don't need it to be spelled out for you.
Yeah,
not everything has to be spelled out.
Well, and they didn't really get into their history, what they had been through in the Holocaust.
That's very true.
I sort of thought that there was subtext that they had a child and the child died.
Oh, really?
But I don't think it said anything about that specifically.
No, that's because I was wondering about the picture that they had up of the wedding from that was up at the intermission. So they said that the Sophia was about 9 years old or something. And
is she in that photo?
Yeah, she was in the photo because that's what they said. They needed a photo of them all together to prove that they had a relationship. So she was at the front and they were getting married. So I didn't like there was a kid involved then. But but at the start, how old is she supposed to be at the start there?
The movie? Teenager? I thought she was supposed to be 17 or something.
So I mean, I guess that's 8 years where they could have had a child.
Well, that I really don't know when they're in bed together. And I kind of love how how horny Felicity Jones's character is in this. Like,
she's a bit like, I've not seen my husband for fucking whatever
Yeah,
it was,
like
10 years. Like, I mean,
but she says like, I know all the like
Yeah.
terrible things you had to do.
yeah.
And like, I don't know what that's alluding to. Like,
Well, I thought she was talking about, I know you've been fucking around a lot.
well, it could be like it could be like cousin Attila like said, he
Well,
made a pass at
not
my
even
wife.
that, because she said that like she had like this vision. She
Visions,
saw
yeah.
him, but it wasn't cheating because I was there in spirit with you, which is a
Right.
really weird thing to say to someone. But it just goes to show how all the shit they've gone through.
But I don't know, like it could also be like I knew you had to kill people to get away, or you had to leave. You had to leave some people behind to get away, because he mentions he jumped from a train
Yes,
and hit a branch. So like, was he on a train to the camp and he jumped off, and like that's how he escaped? Like that's kind of how I was
maybe
interpreting it.
Yeah, it's a good point. They really don't flesh out that history at all, do they?
Yeah, when it really like the opening shot seemed like Sophia was about to like turn a bunch of people in.
Oh, really?
How did you take that? Because they're like,
Wait,
we want you to like put down your address.
Yeah,
and,
well, I think they were trying to figure out, like, they are now out. What are they going to do with these people now? They're free. And she was like, she had to prove that she knew Felicity Jones's character. Because she said, like, how do you know that woman? Like, we can't just let you go with her unless you like give us information about how you know her. And that's why, like, where were you from? I put your address down, because I think they were trying to figure out if she was related, and because she wasn't talking. So that's the way I took it. It's like they're now free from Dachau or whatever, and they're trying to figure out what to do with her, but she's not talking.
So was she with Felicity Jones, or
I think she was at that point,
or were they like never actually related at all?
There's that. There you go. Who knows?
Maybe that was it. That that they actually didn't have anything to do with each other.
Maybe,
I don't know.
Maybe. Because you could read it in any way. Read it any way you like.
Because it could just be a random person. Like it wasn't his sister's kid at all.
Right. Potentially.
Yeah, I don't know.
But no, that wouldn't make sense though, because why would they be lying to each other in their correspondence back and forth?
In case someone's reading it, I don't know.
Maybe like that's going a bit. That's reaching a bit far.
Or maybe she's lying about who she is, because he's like, I only remembered you as a child.
Potentially.
I don't know.
Potentially. But like, to what end though? It does seem like that.
So is this because she could like?
No, I mean like why? But I mean like, to what end would you have that in the movie if you're not really going to allude to it very much?
I don't know.
You're just making stuff up for fun.
I'm not making it up for fun. I'm just puzzled by the opening and closing.
I just figured it meant like, from where it started off, like it could have gone in so many different ways, and lots of different things could have happened, and lots of different things did happen. But at the end of the day, you end up where you end up, and that's all that matters. Like is who you are as a person right now, I guess. So I took it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I was just confused about Sophia's character a little bit. That's all.
Well, I think they just use that character as like the framing device. Really, it was like, this is where she started.
Right, that's the starting point.
This is where she started, and this is where she ended up, and all this shit happened in between with all these different people doing horrible and great things.
Yeah,
but now this is where we are, and that's it. Yeah, I kind of like that framing, because like it's at the start, it's like she can't speak because she's so like distraught and traumatized by whatever's happened, and it's like anything could have happened from that point on. Like the fact that she even survived is amazing, and then like here we are in 1980 and she's thriving. That's how I took from it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Right, there you go. I solved it for you.
Okay, anything else on The Brutalist we should touch on?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't think we're missing any specifics, right? We've talked about it for a while.
All right,
yeah, one of my favorites, I think.
You think so? Okay.
Yeah, we can get to that.
Did we want to do our top 10 then?
Top 10 like of 2024?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Do you got your list?
Yeah, I'll have to pull my notes out.
Okay. Here, I have mine on my phone too, but I was gonna park and then we can sort it out.
Crash.
Hello, no one is available to take your call. Please leave a message after the tone.
Hey guys, huge fan of the podcast. So my favorite movie of 2024 would have to be Wicked easily. I love the set design and the world. It feels larger than life, but at the same time grounded in the musical aspect. And the music and songs itself are amazing. I love Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande's performances. I think they're both top tier. And I'm beyond excited for the sequel later this year, as someone who hasn't seen the play itself.
I'd have to say my favorite movie of 2024 was Wicked. I went to see it with my daughter, and we have not stopped singing the soundtrack ever since. The sets were amazing, the acting was really good, and I've been waiting to see that movie for a very long time.
Hey guys, thanks for reaching out and letting me do this. It's Venom again. So last time I was on here, I thought it'd be a good idea to send something in and build my brand a little bit and get the word out. But a couple days after recording, and I was outside doing some yard work, and Spider-Man came around and whooped my ass and spit on me and told me I'd never really be a part of the MCU. And that was a little bit demoralizing, but you know, it's nothing new in the life of Venom. So, favorite movie of last year? Well, not gonna give it to those thieves at Sony for making another movie with my likeness and not really paying me anything for it. But I'm going to shout out my good friend, Craven the Hunter. He negotiated a much better contract, and gotta stick with my homies. So, you know, Craven the Hunter, best movie of 2024.
I went through a stretch where I only made it out to the movie theater if the movie was about desert power, starting with Lawrence of Arabia, ending with Furiosa, but in the middle is my pick for the 2024 movie of the year. That is Dune Part 2. I know it gets a lot of love on this podcast already, but this is a movie that redefined the scale for me. I saw Part 1, I thought, wow, 5 stars. Then I saw Part 2 and I said, what is this? This has got to be 6.5 stars. And luckily, my favorite podcast uses the 6.5 star system too. Dune Part 2.
So this may be considered cheating, but I'm going to give myself two picks, one that definitely counts and one that may not count, depending on your definition of what was released last year. But what are you going to do about it? Sue me? So anyway, my first pick and my actual pick is Denis Villeneuve's Dune Part 2. This is an absolute spectacle. Saw pre-release at IMAX and went to go see it again in theaters. And I'm not usually someone to go see a movie twice in theaters, but this one really stuck with me. It is well cast, well written, although some may argue with me on that. And like I said, it looks so good. There's no one else who could have put this on screen other than Denis Villeneuve, and it's just a fantastic example of what he can do and what someone can do when they understand how to make a good adaptation. So my second pick, and maybe the more controversial one, is a movie that was released in 1979 but was recut and re-edited and released last year. This is Tinto Brass's Caligula, but the ultimate cut. So this is a pretty notorious movie for being poorly received on release and having real actual porn in it. But this recut was sort of an attempt to bring it back to the original vision of the movie. And I think it was very successful. Now, it's not one I would recommend to everybody because it does still deal with some questionable material and may turn a few people off, but it is visually gorgeous. And Malcolm McDowell, Helen Mirren, Peter O'Toole, they're all so fun in it. And this one, it just, I loved it. So yeah, and as a bonus, not all the porn is gone. There's still more hard dicks than you'll probably ever see in something that's somewhat mainstream.
Hi there, First Look, Final Word. I admittedly did not see many 2024 movies and made it to the theater exactly once We went to the drive-in theater to celebrate our wedding anniversary with our 17-day-old newborn, and we saw baby's first rated R movie, Deadpool and Wolverine. So that was my favorite of 2024. For the record, she slept through the whole thing. I promise I'm not a bad parent.
Like, I'm not. I suck at lists. Just like to throw caveats out.
Hey, that's okay.
I'm not a big list guy, and I find it very difficult to put. I know Trevor really likes making lists. He's got top 10.
I'm like Liam Neeson. I'm just making lists all the time.
He's got a top 10 Liam Neeson movie list that he can just pull out of his hat. He's got a top 10 list for everything.
All right, why don't we?
All right, so yeah, so we'll move on from the Brutalist now, and we'll get into movies of 2024, which feels a bit weird to do when we're in like almost March.
A little bit,
but you know what?
Well, that's kind of what you have season. That's kind of what you have to do to catch up on all the 2024 movies.
That's just it. Right? We'll have to do better this year. Get them all done. Get them all done inside the year.
Gotta figure out where to put this now.
So are we doing like our full top 10s? Should you do like 1 and 1? I'm really curious to see what's on your list.
Which direction? Well, I'm trying to figure out where to put Brutalist on here now.
That's a good point. I need to figure that out. Ooh. Oh man, yeah, that's tough. Yeah, I'd have it pretty high, I think. What's it going to edge out though? Oh boy, now I don't know what to do.
Okay,
we have to like edit this on the fly. Anyway.
So do we want to go down from each do our 10 to 6?
Sure. I'm gonna have to rework this now though.
I definitely got to rework this. Oh, you're hearing some editing in real time here.
I might just have to cut this bit out of the pod.
Okay, I think I got it.
All right.
I think I got it. And then I might watch like 5 more movies this week and then change the list.
Yeah,
this is my list.
That's what I do.
As of right now, before the Oscars.
All right. Yeah, you go first then.
Okay, so am I doing my number 10? You're going to do your number 10?
Sure, why not?
Okay, my number 10 is The Wild Robot.
Oh, nice.
I loved this movie. I thought the animation was great. It's my favorite animated movie of the year, and a very good year overall for animation. Like I don't know if you have any animated on your list.
I wanted to get that. I wanted to get The Wild Robot on there, but in the end, I didn't put it on there. I didn't because I don't have any animation in here, sadly.
But like, yeah, this year they had Flow, which was also really great.
I never saw Flow. I hear it's really good.
It's good, and it kept my kids' attention despite being a nonverbal movie.
Oh, really? Okay.
And then I also really liked Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul. That was really tough leaving this off the list.
I know. I have a soft spot for that as well, but I just couldn't put it in the top 10.
Yeah, like it's just not like top tier Aardman, so it was hard to justify.
It's just a great movie, but yeah, it's not in the top 10 for me.
Okay.
All right. Should we move on then? My number 10? Or you do? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Do you want me to go in a row here, or do we want to like zigzag back and forth?
I don't know. How
do your top 10. Do
my number 10?
Let's not comment if one of us says the other person's.
Well, let's just do one. Let's just go back and forth one on one.
Yeah. That's what I mean. But
okay.
Like if you right here
don't say, "Oh, that's my number 2."
If you're gonna say The Brutalist, I'll be like, "Oh, well, I ranked it higher." So
okay. So I'm gonna go with number 10. Oh man, I need to figure this out. I'm gonna do Hitman. Hitman was my number 10.
I forgot about Hitman.
I really liked Hitman this year. Last year, I should say.
Hitman's gonna be an honorable mention for me. I really want. Dang it!
It was one of those movies where I was like, I want it in my top 10, but it's like, this is why I find lists so hard, because
it's hard to justify.
It's like, how do you justify a big blockbuster budget movie versus like a little art house movie versus an animated movie? I'm like, I find it difficult.
Lists are like inherently silly, right?
Let's get that out there.
As are awards, right? Like
true.
But this is all just for fun. So I think Hitman's a great pick. We did an episode on Hitman. Definitely check that out.
Right.
Good for you for plugging an episode of the pod.
Yeah, a lot of mine actually we did episodes on, just as a little spoiler hint for you.
Well, here we go. So my number 9 is The Bike Riders.
I knew you'd have that on there.
I think that this is a really underlooked or overlooked movie of this year.
I remember you loved this movie.
I think it might be a little misunderstood too. Like it's kind of like
I think you might be right on there. Yeah, I think your take on it was very different from mine when we came out, but I definitely agreed with yours.
sillier Goodfellas, I think is how I would describe it.
Silly fellas.
Yeah. But yeah, we have an episode on that. Check it out.
Yes, that did not make mine.
We were pretty far apart on that one.
I didn't love that. I didn't make my top 20 even when I was whittling this down.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of it. But I did appreciate your take on it, so listen to that episode, guys. All right, my number 9, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Whoa!
I know.
Wow!
I was thinking back on it, and it wasn't in my list at all. But then the more I thought about it, the more I actually quite liked that movie.
Okay, well, I feel bad for not putting it in my list.
And I've got a lot in my list that's just like, you know what? I just like that movie. Well, this is the top 10 movies that I liked versus the best. Let's put it that way.
That's what I can always appreciate about you is you're all about like what was my experience, right? And that's kind of what everyone should be doing, right?
Yeah, like I could definitely tell you like logically, and if I was like coming at this academically of why you could argue that it's not one of the top 10 movies of the year, but you know what? It was the top 10 movies that I enjoyed.
Like I honestly, like I try to do that myself. Like I try to have it like, I shouldn't like this movie because it has XYZ themes that I really like and it's really smart, right? So I try to think about like, what is the movie trying to accomplish and how successful was it as accomplishing that and how much I enjoy watching it.
Right.
Okay, so you did your number 9.
Yeah.
My number 8 is Nickel Boys.
Oh yeah.
So we talked about that on our last episode.
Yeah.
We didn't do a full episode on that, but it's something that another one we were pretty far apart on.
Yeah.
Not like far apart. Like I think just it just worked for me a bit better than it worked for you.
Yeah, I can appreciate Nickel Boys. It's content wise, I really loved it. I just didn't jive with the stylistic choice, and that just really couldn't get it over it. But it didn't make my top 10 as a spoiler. All right, so going into what number are we on now? All my numbers
number
are
8
up now. So my number 8 is going to be Furiosa.
Okay.
A Mad Max story, which I also quite enjoyed when I watched it. I'm doing my big budget movies here, Trevor. I like that movie. I
really like that movie too.
It's not the best Mad Max movie, but it's a good movie.
That's a movie that I think I will have more like love for as years go on. I think just the shock of it not being not being Fury Road is something that a lot of people have to get over, including myself.
Yeah. I
still do really like it. I have like a lot of issues with some of the choices that it made.
Me too.
Including like, I'm not going to do spoilers for it because people haven't seen it. But
check out, we did an episode for that, didn't we?
We did an episode on that. We saw it in shitty Screen X, but still had a good time, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Very good movie.
Yeah, and that's why when I make lists like this, I always want to pick movies that you know what, I'm going to watch that more than once, and I'm probably going to come back to it in years to come.
Yeah.
Where a lot of movies, I'm like, that was great. I'm never going to watch that again. I'll probably forget what happens in it in a couple of years.
Well, that's the thing about making lists of like, these are my favorite movies of the year. It's like 5 years down the road, I don't know what movies on here are going to have stood the test of time and I'm still going to want to revisit.
Yeah, that's why like I really wanted to get Fall Guy in my list, but I was like, I couldn't.
I haven't seen it.
I couldn't justify. It's because it's just a big action movie. It's not trying to do anything like crazy. It's just fun. But no, that didn't get in my top 10.
All right, number 7 is Red Rooms. So it's not one we covered on the pod. This is
first one I haven't seen, I think.
This is a French-Canadian movie that I think technically came out in 2023 in like 7 theaters, but like, did not really make much noise until it went on video on demand in 2024. Caution for anyone watching this movie, it is so disturbing in so many ways. It is honestly, it's such a great depiction of where our culture is going in an online space in the worst possible way. But it's incredibly well done, like very scaled down movie. Like it basically takes place in a courtroom and in a tiny apartment in Montreal, but it is like really impactful. So I would recommend it. Not one to show the kids, I would say. It's very, very disturbing. I wouldn't call it a horror, but it's a disturbing thriller.
Right.
But check it out. I don't think a lot of people have seen it.
Wow. Okay. Nice. All right. So my number 7 is going to be A Complete Unknown,
Whoa.
which I know is going to blow your mind. And honestly, I think there might be a little bit of recency bias on this because it was the last movie I watched when I made this list. So I was like, yeah, I was really into that. But you know what? I think I did quite like it.
That surprises me from our conversation coming
know,
up here.
That's what I mean. Like,
you have so many problems with it, but you still like it.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of movies on here that I'm like, that's what I mean. This is by no means a list of the most well-crafted movies of this year.
No, yeah, for sure.
These are just the movies that I enjoyed the best.
Well, honestly, someone can watch that movie and say, I think Timothée Chalamet did such a great job.
Mm-hmm.
They recreated like that space so well that like you could say like, I love that movie and I can't really argue with that.
Yeah, and but like at the same time, I could easily drop that off the list and put something else on, but I'm not going to.
You put Fall Guy on there if you have more love for it.
Put Fall Guy. Well, I don't think I do, to be honest.
All right, my number 6 is Sing Sing.
Okay, I've not seen that either.
So Coleman Domingo, his performance in this movie, I believe, is my favorite of the year. Like,
okay,
he's not going to.
He got nominated, right?
He got nominated.
He's not going to win.
He's not going to win. But he should win, in my opinion.
Okay.
It's a really great movie. I actually don't want to say too much about it because some of the things that I discovered about like the true life story of this movie as while watching the movie really increased my appreciation for it overall. So I don't want to give too much background on this, but
okay,
high enough. I put it at number 6.
Well, there you go. Nice. All right.
The lists are turning out to be quite different.
I know, right? I knew they would be. Okay, so mine, number 6, is I'm going to put I'm Still Here, number 6.
Whoa, okay, so that one made a big impact on you.
Yeah, I really did like that one, and I think I wasn't expecting to like it for it to affect me as much as it did, so I think that's why it really drew me in. So,
well, you just love the Portuguese language too.
I really do. I was going to say something in Portuguese, and I did realize I didn't know any.
Well, I was watching with my wife, who is Portuguese, and she's like, "They're talking too fast." I can't.
Brilliant.
I can't.
Brilliant.
But yeah, so listen to earlier this episode.
Rewinded something, and I think that's like I was saying about recency bias. Like the last movie I watched ended up in my top 5 to 10.
Okay, so now we're doing 5 to 1.
5 to 1.
So these are the big ones. Number 5 for me is The Brutalist.
Interesting. I was wondering when it was going to show up.
So maybe this one might climb up higher on my list on a second viewing. I'm probably going to watch it again with my wife at home because she tries to catch up on everything too. Could climb higher on a second watch. I feel like this is going to be a movie I revisit maybe every 5 years or so. But that's pretty regular for me. So go back to earlier this episode where we're talking about why I think The Brutalist is really good.
Yeah, it's a whole episode about The Brutalist, so I guess we don't need to get into that too much. All right, so sorry, was that 5?
That was 5 for me.
All right, so my 5 is Thelma.
Thelma's a great pick.
I loved that movie a lot. I think it was such a good film.
Well, both June Squibb and Richard Roundtree's performances in there are amongst my favorite of the year.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like it kind of...
She didn't get nominated, though.
No,
right?
and it kind of got forgotten, I think, that movie.
Yeah,
it kind of went under the radar a little bit, I think, but I just thought it was so original and so well done and beautifully acted and so sweet.
Made with such heart.
Yeah, that's why it's just full of heart, for sure.
And a hilarious movie. It's so funny.
It is funny.
And it's funny in a way that's not making fun, but just speaking to the truth.
It runs that line so well between because it's ridiculous, but they don't make it ridiculous. They do it sincerely, and it's just with heart. It's
it could easily be an ableist or an ageist movie. I mean,
yes, definitely. They could have just made fun of how people are ridiculous, but they don't.
My number 4 is I Saw the TV Glow. So
I've heard that's good.
I've been buzzing about this movie.
I haven't seen it
since I saw it, and it I feel like I might change it at number 4. It's really good. It hit me really hard. Again, it's very spoilery of a movie, so the less anyone knows about it going in, the better. But I think for people our age, I think especially can appreciate it because it's very much about TV shows in the 90s.
Okay, really?
In the best possible way.
Oh, interested.
And it's about how into a piece of like art you can be,
Right. Okay.
which I really identify
Yeah,
with.
I was gonna say it's just like Trevor the movie.
Well, not quite, because it's also speaking to a very specific demographic
Oh,
that
okay,
like
fair enough.
I'm like not a part of, but like I really appreciate this like everything this movie's trying to do.
Nice. All right. Cool. Cool. All right. So my number 4 is gonna be The Brutalist. That's where
Okay,
I'm sliding mine
you just
in.
gotta have a little bit higher than me.
Yeah. Well, I was wondering where you're gonna put it in.
So
I
is
I almost put it in as 5, but then when you did, I was like, I'll change it up.
Is this our first overlap?
First one we've had the same. Yeah, I don't think so.
Oh man,
That's funny.
it's funny because I feel like we agree with each other too much, but like we obviously have different sensibilities.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. I can that's what I mean. I can appreciate a well-made movie, but there's movies that are maybe not as good. Like I'm interested to see our top 3 here.
Okay, my number 3, Nosferatu.
I knew you'd have it up there.
Do you have it? Oh, I shouldn't ask that. I'm sorry.
No. To be fair, it was number 10 on my list, and The Brutalist knocked it
Oh,
off.
it knocked it off. Yeah.
That's why I really wanted to keep it on. I was like, I should probably put it in over Hitman or like A Complete Unknown, but I was like, you know what, screw it.
We did an episode on Nosferatu, obviously one of my favorites of the year.
Yeah.
I think like all the performances, great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised that this has gotten no love at the Oscars at all, considering that.
Yeah, well, it got cinematography, right?
Did it?
I think so.
Okay. Well, thank goodness. Like, like seriously. But like, how does it get no acting notes is beyond me.
Yeah.
And like,
I think he might have got like costume too.
yeah, but like
It's got some nice threads in it.
all like period pieces can kind of pick up on like production,
Yeah,
probably set design. I don't know,
Sound design, maybe.
sound mixing.
Yeah. No, I figured you'd have that one high up there now.
Okay.
All right. Number 3 for me, Conclave.
Okay, you know what? I was really thinking about putting Conclave on this list. I watched it a second time.
I really
liked it even more.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
I like, speaking of sound design, I think that's like the best sounding movie of the year.
Yeah, if it doesn't win in that category, I don't know what's going on.
You're gonna flip over the chessboard?
No, I'll just be I'll be like, yeah, well, that's pretty obvious because Oscars are stupid.
You know what? But between the two of our lists, like our podcast episodes are pretty well represented here.
Right, yeah.
So there we go.
Yeah.
So my number 2, we didn't do an episode on.
Okay.
It's Hundreds of Beavers.
Oh, I really want to see this. I've still not seen it, but I've heard it's amazing.
It's like it's my complete sensibility. It's mostly
all about the beavers, Trevor.
It's mostly a non-verbal movie.
Yes, I heard that.
It's black and white slapstick. It's like a video game movie.
Wow, that's great. That's number 2 on your list. That's fast. That's high praise, man.
It's honestly at this point, like number 2 and like number 3 to number 2, number 1, I would say are all like at masterpiece level.
Wow. Okay.
This is like a fully realized project, made for like no money whatsoever, but it's really like, it's the funniest movie I think I've seen in a decade.
Wow.
Like I threw this on when my mother-in-law and my brother-in-law were visiting, and like they both were just like laughing their heads off at some of the bits and stuff that was going on in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I had heard about it and I did want to see it, but man, now it's gone. Now it's shot right up the list of things I'm going to watch.
Yeah. I think I might watch this again like every year. Like it is really, really great. So I would advise everyone to run, don't walk to see Hundreds of Beavers, because maybe this is the first time you're even hearing about this movie, because it's not like this one.
That's not a mainstream movie.
Well, it might also kind of be like stealthily a 2023 movie, but like it just didn't like it played a festival in 2023, but like no one saw it until 2024. So I'm still counting it.
All right, well, talking about masterpieces that are right in your sensibilities, my number 2, Deadpool and Wolverine.
Okay, wow.
I freaking love Deadpool and Wolverine.
I really like that movie too.
And like I get that it's not a masterpiece. I was being facetious. But I love those characters, and it's the only MCU movie that came out last year, I'm pretty sure. When did Marvel?
Yeah, no, it was the only 2024 Marvel movie, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
And it was just a good. I like superhero movies, so sue me. It was a good one. So it's up there on my own.
Yeah, that one's a surprise. Like I rated that movie pretty high too. But
Yeah.
I might have that like in my.
I
my 10 to
I
20.
just really dig it. Like I've seen that movie like more than I've seen any of these movies, I think, this year.
All right, so
I guess our number one is the same,
my
right?
number one of the year. I'm assuming your number one is Dune Part 2.
Yeah, I
So-
think the listeners to this podcast are going to be absolutely shocked that we picked this as our favorite movie of the year.
I think this is a movie that people are going to be talking about for generations. Like the fact that it's kind of getting forgotten in all the awards talk is
not even in awards talk. I think it's just being forgotten in general. Like, it's just in the general population and mindset. I think people have just skipped over it. Although I did hear that he's pushing forward with the third part.
Yeah, well,
like
I think
sooner than he originally planned.
Well, he saw a complete unknown, and he's like, "All right, Chalamet's ready. We can do it. We can do it right now."
He is the Messiah.
Yeah. I've seen this movie 4 times now. I'm gonna watch this one all the time. Like this is like Empire Strikes Back level.
Yeah, it's
quality
perfect.
movie.
Yeah, because it's like I watched the first part, and I was like, "That is an amazing movie." Like, if the second one's as good as that, I'll be happy. And then the second one came along, and it was like, "No, it's actually better." And you're like, "Okay, I'm happy with that."
Yeah, so definitely visit our episode on Dune Part 2, and probably every episode since then we've talked about how great that movie is. For me, like it, and that came out in February, right?
Yeah, I believe
So
so.
it's been at the top of my list all year. Like,
yeah, I think that's a little bit why it's forgotten about, right? It was so long ago.
Hundreds of Beavers was really trying to peck at that one, but
well, yeah, I wasn't. Our list, I knew
like,
our list would be quite different, but I didn't realize it'd be like completely different.
Completely different. So we have The Brutalist and Dune Part 2.
And that's it, right? That's it.
But we have Dune Part 2 at the top of the list. That's why we're friends, right there. Is we.
Yeah, you can be like, "Can you believe he put Deadpool and Wolverine at number 2?"
No, you know what? That wasn't on my radar for your list, but
well, you'll be sad to know. You know what other movie I really wanted to get in there, just to see your reaction? I wanted to put Transformers 1 in there.
I still haven't seen it, so
it's pretty good.
Let me see for me. So Flow was one I was thinking about. Let me see.
So I was surprised. I thought you'd have Challengers up there.
I did like Challengers.
Into that.
Conclave I was really thinking about. Let me see.
No, we didn't really get many. You didn't have really many Oscar-nominated movies on there. No, you had Nickel Boys, right? But no, like Anora. No, I'm Still Here.
So I had Anora at number 10 before here, and then I bumped it down. Like Brutalist, just like brutally knocking it off.
Brutally is the way.
But yeah, I think that for my 7 to 10 picks, I probably have another 5 in there that can fit in there.
That's why it's hard with lists, right?
I did really like I'm Still Here. I thought about it for this list. I think I don't know, for whatever reason, maybe I was fighting too hard against recency bias, where you just let yourself be taken away by the tide.
I'm very much like a feeling. Like, how did I feel when it finished?
Yeah,
and I think that was one of the ones where like it stuck with me, like when it finished, and it really affected me. Whereas other movies I've really enjoyed or really appreciate, but they haven't really stuck with me as much. So I don't know. I guess I'm a feelings guy.
You're all about your feelings.
My heart over my head.
You don't have to apologize for that.
That wasn't an apology, but it's fine.
So what else did I really like? I really like Love Lies Bleeding.
Did you see A Real Pain?
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
You like it? I've still not seen it.
It's pretty good.
I feel like I would really like it.
Well,
I don't know why I haven't watched it.
It's another it's kind of similar to The Brutalist in the way that it's people processing the trauma that is the Holocaust.
Or is it? Okay.
So
it's not a knockabout comedy then.
It is. It is like a perfect blend of comedy and drama.
Right.
2 great performances that I really like. But yeah, I feel like overall a pretty good year for movies, despite there being the actor strike and some projects getting delayed a little bit.
True.
But yeah, I think a pretty good year overall. Was Emilia Perez up there for you? Is that we talked about that?
You know what? No, it wasn't. Like I really do like aspects of that movie. I really do like Zoe Saldana in it, but no, as a movie, I just figured it didn't deserve it.
Yeah. One there are lots of performances. Long Legs is another movie I was kind of thinking about too. I love that Nick Cage performance is he'd be in my list of nominees.
You didn't have Wicked up on your list?
You know, I really liked Wicked, it wasn't one that was jumping up to the top of my list.
Yeah, you didn't have the substance in there either, did you?
Well,
you loved the substance.
Substance, I probably would have it like 15, right? Like I liked it a lot, but it wasn't getting to the top of my list.
It's fair enough.
But no,
you only get 10 choices.
Well, exactly. Like not having something in the 10 is still still pretty good. Like, you know, Conclave I liked. Let me see. Yeah, Beetlejuice is really good, but not really quite.
Alien Romulus?
Not Alien Romulus. No, I'm just going through our episodes for the
Alien Romulus.
Hitman. I love that movie.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is a surprise for me.
I like that. I liked it.
Let's see. Then those are kind of all the movies in contention for me, and I still have plenty of homework to do before Oscar night.
Yeah, me too. There's a few gaps. I do want to see A Real Pain, and I'm gonna watch. Because didn't your Beaver movie get nominated for something?
Did it?
Maybe I'm just imagining that.
That would be crazy if it.
No, it definitely didn't. I saw it. I saw it somewhere else.
All right, so that's our top 10. Do we want to quickly go through our predictions here,
or some Oscar predictions?
Yeah,
we can just rattle them off. I guess.
Want to speed run?
Yeah, we can speed run a little bit. We can chat about it. If we
Who
want.
won last year? Did I win?
God knows. I think I just guessed every single one.
Okay. All right, well, let's go. Okay, Best Picture.
Best Picture. This is the problem. We're going for what we want to win, or we're going for what we think should win.
I think
because they're two very different things.
I think Conclave is going to win.
I do too, and I want it to win actually.
Okay,
but I think Honora might.
Well, they've been saying Honora's in the front runner position right now. But I feel like
I've got a feeling that's going to get a bunch of love, but not from me. Totally.
Not from you. Okay.
I mean, I like it, but I wouldn't give it all the awards.
So, Best Director, I'm gonna go Sean Baker.
Yeah.
Before Honora, because I think it's gonna split. I think Conclave will win Best Picture, Honora Best Director.
I'm gonna go for The Brutalist for director.
Well, I think it'd be hard to argue that that's not a well-directed movie.
Brady Corbet.
It's no Dune Part 2, but it was pretty good.
No, Dune Part 2 did not get nominated.
Okay, so let's
sorry.
So, actress.
Actor. Oh, are you doing actress?
Oh, sorry.
I'm just going by what I've written down.
Okay,
there,
sorry. You go ahead.
Let me run it. Okay, we'll do actor then. Whatever, it's fine. I'm going Adrien Brody. I think he's gonna win.
Well, I was gonna say that too, but now I want to say Timothée Chalamet.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's either or. I think.
I
would have liked Ralph Fiennes to it, but I don't think he's even gonna.
I think Chalamet is nominated for the wrong performance. I did like him in A Complete Unknown. I think him in Dune Part 2 is the best performance of the year.
Agreed. And I think we talked about in the past that I just think he's going to win one anyway. He's going to probably win a bunch of awards in his life.
Well, the fact that Brody
Brody's already won.
Won one, and by all accounts is a bit of a jerk. Right. Might be working against him, might be working for him. Who knows?
But he was really good in that movie.
Usually they don't give actors that young Best Actor.
True.
So they want the guys to be in their 30s while the women can be in their 20s and win. But it's actually kind of like for my pick for Best Actress, I'm going to pick Mickey Madison for that same reason.
Yeah, I think she's pretty nailed on for this one. I think,
and like honestly, one of my favorite performances of the year.
Yeah. Okay. But you know what? I'm gonna go for Fernanda Torres. Actually, I want her to win.
Okay. Well, I think most people view Demi Moore as the front runner.
Yeah, well, I don't want Demi Moore to win. I don't like that movie.
You don't want anything about that movie to win?
I don't.
You think that she was good in it, though,
you know what? It can win makeup. I'll give it that. She was very good in it. I'm not trying to take anything away from her, but I don't know, just because you rub makeup all over your face.
And my wife was listening to our episode on The Substance. She's like, wow, Pete really didn't like this movie.
Yeah, I feel like I don't hate it as much as I'm coming across, but I just don't want it to win some awards.
I usually have one that's like that. Can I see the list of best?
Yeah, go for it.
I guess in a normal year, I might really not want Amelia Perez to win, but it gets enough hate from other people that I'm like, and it has no chance of winning really anything except for Best Supporting Actress. So.
No, that's true. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen.
Okay, let's fly through these.
The supporting actor, it's going to be Kieran Culkin, right? I haven't seen the movie, but I feel like it's pretty nailed on that he's going to win.
Yeah, that's who's going to win. For the
There's
Worst
a lot of
supporting actor.
there's a lot of very solid performances, but I feel like
Well, Ed Norton's never won one before, so he might have an
Right.
overdue thing. But Kieran Culkin kind of has it locked down. Some people are a
think
little
so.
annoyed at it because he's playing a similar-ish character to what he's playing in Succession.
right.
I should say, I feel bad Coleman Domingos doesn't have any chance for Best Actor because that's
You can
actually.
still-
Did I say Timmy Chalamet in Dune Part 2 is my favorite? Because I think Coleman Domingo might be my
Yeah,
favorite
yeah.
here.
Well, you said that it was better than his performance in A Complete Unknown, which I
But which I also would
kind of
rate
agree
an
with.
A.
yeah, there you go. So A+ for Big Timmy.
All right, we done with actors?
Yeah,
Or-
let's just
no,
move.
wait, do we do supporting actress?
No, we haven't done supporting actress, but we kind of both said Zoe Saldana, right?
You know what? I'm gonna say Isabella
I think we
Rossellini
might go for
is gonna sneak in there.
that. Would be my second pick for sure. Either of those, I think.
So that's who I'm picking because we gotta make our list a little different.
Ariana
here.
Grande is going to win, though. I think we all know this.
I think everyone's just assuming that Wicked Part 2 is gonna pick up a bunch of wins,
Yeah,
and
that's
so
a good point. Actually,
it's kind of unfairly not getting counted
That's a
on
good
on
point.
some of these.
all right. Let's get through this. Original screenplay. What are you going for?
Well,
Honora seems to be the front runner.
I said Baker was going to win for Best Director, but that doesn't mean he won't win for this one.
You think you get both? That'd be good. Have you seen September 5?
No, and it looks really good.
I've not seen that either. So that's got a screenplay nod.
I'm gonna say, I think The Substance is gonna surprise people.
Oh, okay.
I
You know what? I wouldn't begrudge it that. It was a very original screenplay.
I'm gonna go with The Substance. I don't really know what the odds are on that right now, but it just seems like the Oscars has a tendency to give Best Screenplay to someone that they aren't going to vote for Best Director.
It'd be interesting if they gave it to Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah,
It was like his first script,
uh,
or it was his first directing gig.
it's not his first directing or script,
not?
but it's kind of the first thing that's been like lauded.
The first one that's blown up.
Yeah, and of course he has an acting nom
Yeah,
as well.
exactly. So anyway, adaptive screenplay. Let's push that. Do you think they'll give it Conclave?
That's who I would guess. Yeah,
You
'cause
know,
I think
put Nickel Boys up.
no, like I think Nickel Boys is a great screenplay. I think if I'm picking Conclave for Best Picture, that's probably going to win a lot of down ballot awards. So
Yeah.
I should pick it for scrapplay too.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I'd pick it for both.
Animated feature is pretty easy. The Wild Robot's going to win.
Yeah, I think we're going to win with a bullet in it.
Yeah.
I would love Wallace and Gromit to win an Oscar, but it doesn't really.
Wallace and Gromit's won plenty of Oscars in the past.
They don't need
Nick
them.
Park's got 4 Oscars, so I'm not too
There you go.
not too bad. Feel too bad about
All
it.
right, let's slide right into production design then.
Okay.
This is one where Wicked might pick up an award.
Yeah, I think so.
Nosferatu is nominated though.
Yeah, but like it's just not nominated for other things, so like it's just not going to get attention. I don't think.
No.
I might say
Conclave might win the production design too, though.
I'm going to say Conclave.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Conclave won. I would like to see that win. A lot of awards. All right, cinematography.
I'm going to say Doom Part 2.
Really?
Yeah.
You think it's going to get the cinematography? I in my heart, I want it to be Doom Part 2, but I don't think they're going to give it to it. I think the Brutalist might get it, and I don't have any, and I wouldn't be upset with that, to be honest.
No, like I think a reasonable person could watch The Brutalist and say this is a better job. I think that Dune Part 2 is one of the best looking movies in a very long time, and I will throw something at my TV if it doesn't win.
What would you hate? Have you seen Maria?
No, I haven't seen it.
That's nominated too, but that's not going to win. I haven't seen it. All right, costume design. We're getting into the nitty gritty here.
Yeah, I guess gotta give Wicked something.
Do you think it's? Yeah, I mean, I guess Wicked, right? Like,
and I think probably it's gonna win production design too. But I think I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna go Conclave production design, but costume I'm gonna go Wicked.
Okay, let's go film editing.
What did you pick for that?
I picked Conclave again.
Okay.
Yeah, I really do adore how technically great that movie is.
Yeah, editing's tough.
Yeah, it is tough because it's like
it's hard to know like what are the editors going to like.
Well, the thing I always heard said about editing is great editing is editing that you do not notice.
Yeah.
So, but then sometimes they'll nominate that are obviously edited in a stylistic way, right? So
Yeah.
it's like either or.
Well, I think Conclave is just going to have a bit of momentum going in, so
Yeah,
I'm
that's
gonna
what I
I'm gonna
mean,
vote
yeah.
for it in that category as well.
All right, and then we got makeup and hairstyling, which I think I would like if they gave it to The Substance. To be honest with
Well,
you,
I'm gonna vote for The Substance.
I've got that. I'm going to vote for it too, so that people don't say I hate it.
Well, it's pretty deserving of that.
I mean, makeup and
award, I would say.
hairstyling. What else are you going to give it to? Like Wicked? So they painted her green, big whoop.
Oh, you know what? I don't want to give I don't want to give any plot away, but like some crazy stuff goes on.
Yeah.
Very impressive practical effects. In
Very
that
true. Very
movie.
true. Did we miss anything out?
We should have sound in there, right?
Yeah, I do. Oh, I'm missing a page.
And
Oh yeah, sorry. There's loads of tons more. Sound. Best
I'm
sound.
gonna say Conclave. Is that nominated?
No.
That's stupid.
I think it's nominated for. No, it's not.
That's really
For score.
That's really dumb.
Yeah, not for sound, but only for score.
Sound? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, this is tough because I'm not like a technician. So I
mean, I would love it if Dune Part 2 got it. That was going to be my pick.
Well, Dune might pick up a bunch of the tech awards here.
Yeah, I think it will.
But then
because it's going to get shafted on the.
All right, so you say Dune. I'm going to say Wicked.
Okay.
Because I think Wicked might pick up some of these tech awards.
Maybe, I wouldn't be surprised. Visual effects, I think it's going to be similar. I'm going to go for Dune, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm going to go
if
for
Wicked
Dune
gets
as well.
Yeah. Let's see.
Because that'll be what people say about this movie. Like, well, like it looks really good.
Yeah, I hate when they do that, but whatever. Okay, original score. The Brutalist is the favorite from what I could see, but
I'm going to go Conclave.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I really like this.
It's a great score.
I mean, I would have given it for sound as well, but whatever. And original song. I think it's got to be the one from Emilia Perez, right? Or there's two of them that are up for it, right?
I don't know what. I'm going to go with Like a Bird from Sing Sing.
Oh yeah, is it good?
It's pretty good.
Okay, I don't know this Elton John one. Never Too Late.
Where's that from?
From
the doc about him?
From his documentary. Okay.
Did he write the song?
I guess so.
Okay. I guess they just gave it to him.
Maybe. Anyway, documentary feature. I've heard this is a shoe-in, this Porcelain War, but I've not seen it. Have you seen it?
Well, I'm not going to argue against you if you say it's a shoe-in.
No, I've not seen anybody say it's not going to win. It's like apparently going to win with a bullet, so it must be very good.
Okay, well, I'd be stupid to say anything else then.
Yeah, I actually read up on stuff this year. Okay, international feature. This is an interesting one.
I'm Still Here. It's going to win.
I might give it Emilia Perez, though. I'd be upset if Emilia Perez wins over I'm Still Here.
I'm gonna say I'm Still Here.
Yeah, me too, but I would be surprised if it doesn't win.
And the shorts, I have no idea.
No, neither have I.
You want to skip over this part, or this is the tiebreaker here?
Well, I mean, these are the other. Well, I guess we could pick one.
I haven't seen any of these.
I haven't
actually.
seen it. Like,
sometimes I'll catch some of the shorts.
I hadn't seen any of them, and I was like, I'll just do some research. And all the research I had was like people just picked at random one. So like, I feel like there's no front runners I could find.
Here, I'm gonna pick. So going from animated to documentary to live action short, I'm gonna pick In the Shadow of Cypress.
Okay.
Let me see. I'm gonna try to pick ones that are for documentary short. I'm gonna pick what sounds political. I'm gonna go Death by Numbers.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna go. I don't want to just gonna go for the favorites here. Gonna make it interesting. I'm gonna go I'm Not a Robot.
There you go. Okay, well, I'm gonna.
You're gonna mark these down as you're editing this episode?
We'll keep them down somewhere. I'm gonna pick Magic Candies for animated. I'm Ready Warden for documentary. And which one did you pick?
I don't know. I'm Not a Robot.
I want to pick I'm Not a Robot too.
Sure, go ahead.
Just because I like robots.
Robots are cool, but not cool enough for you to pick them for your top 10, apparently, for a Wild Robot. I was really surprised. I thought that was going to be on your list there.
Yeah, I know I'm an animation guy. I, honestly, when I first did my list, I had like three different animated movies.
I was thinking about it. Like, I'm surprised I just ended up with one on there.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway.
I think I do have to see Anora again, because you know it might win Best Picture.
Yeah.
And I said, like, I still really liked it, but I would like to watch it again, kind of knowing where the plot goes. I think I might be able to
really
enjoy
need to watch it again. I think from when we talked about it on the pod, like the first half hour, I was just wasn't into it. But I think watching it again, I might view that through different eyes.
Yeah. Okay, so we are finally just getting home. We kind of parked on the side of the road so we can do this.
Yeah, it was a bit of a bumper episode, but that's okay.
Next week we are getting back to our Aardman series, so we're going to be talking Flushed Away.
Flushed Away. I know you guys have been on tenterhooks wanting to know our opinion on that movie, so we'll finally hear it.
And we're also going to be seeing Heat in 35 millimeter.
Yes.
It's my first time in like 10 years having seen the movie. It hasn't been one that I've loved in the past, but I'm very interested to see what it looks like on film and if I can kind of finally click into Michael Mann.
Yes, I think there's gonna be some good conversation after that one. So yeah, tune in for that one, guys.
Okay, and we should end this here because we've been
let's just
for a while.
Let's just call it. Okay, so thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us, and then go on, Trevor.
Follow us on Letterboxd. First Look Final W.
Check out a competition we have running on there.
Yeah. And then, just I love each and every one of you. Thanks for listening.
Oh, what a great thing to go on. All right, guys, and I guess that's the final.
It's been a great year of movies.
You stumbled all over my outro, man.
Sorry. I felt things very genuinely in that moment. I'm sorry.
That's fine. We appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Until next time, that's the final word.